about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for the third chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
Well, we did it. We've invited someone back again.
Yes, it's Rob with the twisted sense of humor. I like that.
It's Rob with the twisted sense of humor. And for those of you who caught last week's show, our guest is a local filmmaker, screenwriter, digital media guy, which I think he's worked like on websites and stuff. He's armed with a poet's pen. I like that. Because, you know, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes, or the pentel if you use that type of pencil.
That's right. Let's welcome Rob Bowen back. Oh, you want me to introduce the show?
That's because I couldn't remember
where we are, who we are.
Is it the third or the 3.14 or
the
360 show? Or?
One time I introduced us as like the second chair, and it's like Doug was looking at me like, "What? We're the third chair." Well, welcome back to the third chair.
We'll get to that third chair.
Yeah, and we'll eventually get to our guest, who is Rob Bowen, who is a local filmmaker, screenwriter, poet, artist, and definitely after talking with him, a twisted sense of humor.
Yes.
And he's going to tell us a little bit about what's a budget. What's a budget? Well, that's when I have to put money in an envelope.
I had a few sleepless nights because I was trying to, this week, because I was trying to figure out what's a budget, how he came up with that. So we finally can ask you, Rob.
I'm sorry that I gave you sleepless nights, though, man. I felt bad. But, you know, it's an interesting story because I knew we were going to be doing films that we weren't going to be able to necessarily fund. And we were going to be doing things on a shoestring budget, as they so call it. And not even on a shoestring budget, because I learned that even those budgets are like still like... They have some. They got some zeros on there on those budgets. So I was trying to figure out like what we could do and what we could, come up with that would be impactful and kind of, playful and kind of embody what we were doing all around, the spirit, the tone, and what's a budget seemed to be it. I was like, well, that's not something we typically are going to be working with. We're not going to be funded. We're not going to be, doing all of the major things. So I was like, I think this is nice and fun.
And we do quality work anyway.
That's right.
That raises a question, though. Does that mean, like, when the first time you raised $4 million to make a movie, you're going to change the name of your company to Lots of Budget?
Lots of Budget. No, I just think we're going to use
budget is great.
That's right. It's still what's a budget because we're still not going to know how to apply it correctly. Stay within it. That's for dang sure.
Peter, instead of like getting 10,000 viewers, we should say, we want a budget with a comma in it.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, I know. But don't forget, I'm the shallow one in the company. I just want a cult following of 100 million viewers. That's all.
So come on, internet, get on it. Give Peter what he wants.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button. And share.
Sharing, that's important. That's right. Sharing is caring. That's right.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Okay, Rob, at some point in your career, you transitioned from writer to actor to writer, and then filmmaker. Why did you make all these changes, and how is your career being more enjoyable as you go through all this?
I think it's really interesting to look at because I don't know that I would say it's more enjoyable, but I definitely think it's more rewarding. And I think it's necessary to kind of, for a director and a filmmaker to kind of know what you're putting your actors through, what you're asking of your actors, and what that means to them, and like what their process is like. And so I think going through those various stages did help me kind of maybe become a better director or a better artist, because I'm hopefully a little more understanding. I know what I'm asking, I know what I'm expecting, and I know how to work with them to make them comfortable enough to give me that and to get them where they need to be. I think being a writer was always my first love, the written word, and I transitioned that with me as I went along. When I started acting on stage, I started writing plays. And then when I started kind of focusing and deciding I wanted to do more film, I started writing films and scripts, you know, in that vein. And so I think that it just kind of gave me the insight to be able to adapt more in those roles and to be able to fill those roles more effectively.
No, do you do more directing now than acting and writing?
Well, always writing, yeah. I think I've written pretty much most of the films, all 40 plus films that we've done are ones I've written myself. And because that was kind of the goal for What's a Budget, was I got tired of waiting for someone else to do something with my writing. So I was like, well, what if I wrote it in a way where I could make it myself? And, you know, then I would have complete creative control over how that story's told from beginning to end, from pen to page to, you know, directing it and shooting it and then to the edit. So I wear all those hats just to kind of be the one in charge of that full story.
Does the actor sometimes surprise you though with how they handle a role?
Oh yeah, and that's great because I love an actor surprising you and giving you something that you didn't see, you know, coming. And when they can surprise you with something that you should know in and out, that's an amazing thing. That's such a great experience to have, and it should be welcomed. You know, I would hope that more directors would welcome that, you know, from their performers. And as long as it works with what we're doing and the underlying commentary and all of the arcs that we're building, then I'm for it, letting them have their room and their space to do what they want. Now, if it's contradictory to some of the things that we're building or working towards, I've had actors who are like, oh, I have this idea, I want my character to do this in this scene. And it's like, I understand why you want to do that, but you have to understand if you do that, it kind of works against A, B, and C that we've planted along the way here. So it's all about having those conversations with them just to make sure that you're all on the same page creatively, and I think that's a better collaboration anyway. So you need to be informative, you need to be open and accessible to your crew and your actors, and explain, you know, like, I know a lot of directors and writers, they don't want to explain themselves and they don't want to explain what their stuff means, and I get that to the overarching, you know, audience or things, but you need, like, your team on the same page. And right. I think that creatively, so they give you what you need and what you want from them, they need to know what the meaning of all that is and why you're doing what you're doing.
Sometimes we find like some scenes like, oh, you can play a little with this scene.
Oh, yeah.
Other scenes it's like, oh, you better get almost exactly word for word because it's very important for the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, sometimes the wording has to be done right, particularly if it's like a TV commercial or something where the lawyers have looked at it and the wording is exactly okay legally.
Right.
And so you can't change it even a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's when you'll see nervous directors do. It's like, no, you cannot say it that way.
And I had that. I am so bad about it because I am so wordy, and I do not write my dialogue in that way that they tell you to write, so that, like, you know, you write the way people talk. I do not do that. And I know that. And so I give my actors challenges in that sense. And I work with them, and I know, but there are certain things you have to say this word, or you have to say this exactly like this, because it threads into this later, or this scene calls back to that, and it's said exactly like this later, so it has to be delivered just like that. So yeah, there's definitely those moments where you're on guard and you're like, you can play with these words, you can play with this, you can drop this if you need to, but this part of the paragraph, and for me it's unfortunately a paragraph that I'm giving you to say and remember, but this part of the paragraph
chapter
is key.
11.
That's right. Yeah. You have to say chapter 11 right.
of your speech.
Exactly. That is critical.
Very critical.
Yeah, you know when that dialogue is long when you're actually rolling a teleprompter.
Yes.
Oh yeah, boy. Well, you know, and you raise a good point about dialogue writing. I mean, we could talk about this, but you know, it's one thing you take a long time to learn how to write proper English in school, and then for screenwriting, you write more like people talk. Yeah, you're dangling modifier.
You got run-ons and there's no complete sentences. Yeah. Exactly, and I think it's so interesting because they always talk about with almost anything, and filmmaking is no different. They say you have to learn the rules so you can break the rules. You know, but you have to know this so that you can do it right, or so that you can then effectively break those rules or work against that. And I mean, I think there's different schools of thought on that, but I think that there's room for that, yes, but I think that there's also room for people just being able to be freely open to just express themselves the way they want and the way they need to, rather than fitting it into a certain structure.
Yeah, the writers too. As an adult, took a writing class, and he was talking about all this structure. And then he read this, and he says, "Does this sentence fit any of these?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh yeah, that was written by Faulkner." Yeah, and this is another famous. He reads another. This is another famous writer, and he says, "But you know what? They know the rules, and they know how to break them." Mm-hmm. It's like, okay.
And because again, you can do amazing things when you know those rules and you're breaking them specifically for certain reasons. And there's so much to be said for being able to inject that kind of layering and commentary into your stuff, definitely.
Right. So you write. I'll ask this question about being a writer and a director. What do you learn from doing both? And we will discuss that after our first break of this episode.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Grigg, a life and recovery coach with Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. I've had the pleasure and privilege of helping people for over 25 years. I want to hear your story, support and encourage you while we partner together to help you reach your goals. I can help you. I am certain I can help you. I can be your guide, role model, resource person, and help you get results. What's my coaching frameworks? I'm an eclectic coach drawing from a variety of disciplines and frameworks with evidence-based proven methods. What would you like to work on? Some popular areas are goal setting and attainment, building and maintaining motivation, finding purpose, personal development, recovery from drug and alcohol addiction problems, health and wellness, life planning, athletic and creative artist performance enhancement, maybe something else. Just ask me. I would love to help you. You can find my services on Fiverr.com.
Hi, welcome back to the show. And Rob is going to tell us what he learns from being a director, from writing, and what he learns from being a writer from directing.
All right. I think that from what I learned in that first, from being a writer to an actor, that was the first one, correct? Just want to make sure I'm okay. So just want to make sure I'm doing this right. So yeah, I think the first thing that I learned from that exchange is that what you put on the page is great, and it is important, and it matters, and they need to give you what's on the page, but you also need to be open to that interpretation and how they're going to work that in, and how they may need to change blocking or may need to change something so that it feels more natural and feels more comfortable for them, because that's what you should always be wanting. You should want what you've written to feel natural and to come across naturally, and for actors to sell that, they need to sometimes play with that a little bit, and they need to have that freedom to be able to do that. So
play and experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Because at the heart of it all, it's all a collaboration, and it's such a collaborative art form that you need that input, and they should have that kind of back and forth, and you should have that give and take with them, so that, I mean, your actors, it's great as a writer to create all of this, and it's great as a director to be able to like bring that to life, but your actors know your characters better than you do, because they're in their heads in a way that you've never, in a way you may have been while you were writing them here and there, but you didn't live in their heads the way that the actors do. And so you need to trust that when they're in their heads, they may come to something differently than you intended or anticipated, and you need to let them do that.
Yeah, we had actors come and ask us, "Can we change this?" And they're like, Oh yeah, I mean, this is something we just threw on a piece of paper, you know.
Exactly.
Peter and I were like, yeah. Wow, they asked us that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel like so many would just like be argumentative or like defensive and like, no, it must be this way and it has to be just like what's on the page.
Yeah, a couple times it had to be.
Well, yeah, because like we've talked about, there's definitely those times.
Earlier, but
Well, there's a lot of famous shows where there's really very active on the set changing of lines. Yeah, you know, White Collar was very classical for that, where they said, "Oh, I shouldn't say this, and you need more lines here." And the Pirates of the Caribbean, I mean, they had their writers like in the water with their computers, literally like changing.
What if we said this?
Where you
I
just,
don't know. Like Johnny Depp, they probably have to keep up or something to write it because, and then Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam. I mean, he just stood up and like started spouting off,
right? And again, like
on the radio, and is like, "Yeah, I don't think anybody wrote that."
Yeah, I can imagine being the writer for that and just being like, "Oh,
in Disney,
that's so much better."
when he played the genie, they said, you know, they kind of wrote a rough thing, and they said.
They just gave it to him, yeah.
Yeah, and then they did the animation later, afterwards. They animated what he spoke about. But
well, do you remember Full Metal Jacket? I mean, that was an intense Vietnam movie. But all the
Kubrick,
scenes with, Ermey, who played the Sergeant Hartman, you know, he...
Oh, because he was a real drill sergeant.
He was a real drill sergeant, and to get the role, they actually had another guy in the script. He just ad-libbed basically that whole barracks scene, and they filmed it and showed it to Kubrick, and he got the part, and they changed half the script. Based on him, and the instructions were follow him around with the camera and the mic, and he like ad-libbed, and then they polished the movie, of course. But there's some place for improvising and let your actors run it.
Absolutely, and you know, as a writer to a director, you know that you learn that some things that you put on the page, they don't work in practical reality when you're trying to shoot. You know, you can have an idea that works on paper, but that doesn't actually work in reality. And so as a director, you need to be able to adapt, and you need to be able to have a full enough understanding of what's written that you can adapt it properly without contradicting it and without working against what you've already established and said. So I think that becomes key, and I think that becomes a great lesson to learn as you move in those roles.
Did you ever find that you tried to put too much detail in the action part of the script for the actor?
Oh, yeah. I've done that.
I mean, it seems like one of the challenges, I think, is trying to write like fight scenes or hand-to-hand combat, because it's hard to know exactly how much to put into a script versus... okay, guys, fight, and then just work out the choreography off ski.
And that's one of the things that I've had to, that was one of the things that taught me that, is I wrote out an action sequence of like, okay, he does this, and then he turns and he does this, and he hits you here, and he does this, and then we get out and we try to like actually film that, and it's like, oh, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and this is such a non-natural body movement and position to switch from and go between. So you have to in those moments be able to just be open.
For you, who choreographs that?
Well, it depends. I will write out, you know, a specific sequence, and then when we're working with the actors in those moments, it's like, what makes sense, or what feels natural, what feels best, what's not going to hurt you, because we don't want anybody to like, do something like, oh, I just pulled my back out, because that's what would happen to me.
Somebody in the chest by mistake.
Right, yeah.
Bruised ribs. Or
exactly, because I mean, when we did my feature film that I got a grant for, What Life's a Tarantino Flick, I ended up, so I put myself in, there was a role where this homeless person gets beaten up and then drowned. Like he gets beat the crap out of and then drowned. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make anybody else, I don't want to ask anybody else to like go under that water, even though it was summertime in the creek. I don't want it to submerge anyone else, so I put myself in that role. And I ended up with bruises from where the actor would come up and grab me and like push me against the tree. Like he would grab like an armful of my skin, not my shirt. He would just grab like a thing. So I like had this huge bruise on my arm. But I was like, every time I was like, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep going with it. It's working and it looks really good. So I was like, you go with that and do what you need to do that makes it, feel right.
Did you ever feel like that was like a metaphor from the actors to,
right.
to you about what they thought of the project?
Why are you still hitting him? We all cut an hour ago. Yeah, I don't know. I try not to think like that because then I go down a road, the rabbit hole, and my mind's never going to get out of. But no, it's like that, and I think that again, I think that's part of the fun of working with the same people over and over again. You build that trust. And you build that idea of, that they're going to be able to handle what you're giving them and stuff like that. Even if it is physical or something you haven't necessarily seen them do before, you can kind of gauge, from working with folks what they're going to be good with, what they're going to be comfortable with, especially if you, I think, work with them close enough. So.
Yeah, well, and with our group, I do the choreography because I've got a martial arts background, and unfortunately, it always involves women beating me up. So, at some point, I'm gonna have to write
so you're
that
typecast,
yeah.
He might win a fight in 25 years.
Right.
They're
gonna read it. This just doesn't read believable, Peter. We're gonna have to change this. You're gonna have to lose this fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe when you get that cult following, they'll actually take your back and be like, let Peter win a fight.
Yeah. I'm really still hoping, as shallow as it is, for that 100 million viewer cult following.
Come on. Tell your friends, people. Let's get on it. Let's get these numbers.
And of course, don't forget to like, share, and hit the notification bell. We're on YouTube, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, where were we, Doug?
At one time, maybe.
Yeah, we haven't gotten canceled yet.
So you're doing something right.
Doing something.
Yeah.
So, okay. We have had on the show, let me get the names right here, Ralph Giordano and Joe Black. And I know you've done some collaborating with them.
Yes, sir.
So here's the question before the break. Tell us about the projects that you've done with each of them. Okay. And we'll hit those projects when we come right back, right here on YouTube.
But not all the threats have been dealt with. Some remnants of the past remain. Welcome to 2044.
I'm sure you know the drill. 2021 rolled around, and with it, the near extinction of humankind was delivered on the ends of a dozen strategically aimed warheads.
I think we're actually gonna find something this time. Please, Hammer, don't hurt us.
Lower the rifle, Wastelander.
I'm Grim.
Things are seeming bleaker these days.
The last thing this area needs is another fucking fire.
Look around! Life as we knew it is long fucking gone!
Hungry?
No thanks.
Your packs seem pretty light for nomadic living. Where'd you really come from?
It's a place called...
Adam.
Find anything nest-worthy yet?
People infected by the wastelands.
That's grim.
I never wanted to survive this!
But it's better than just cowering in a corner waiting to die.
Yeah, as if we aren't just postponing that inevitable outcome.
I have bottled water.
I guess that changes the landscape a bit.
It changes nothing. Terms.
That's cost us enough.
Wait, what?
Sounds like communism.
It's not like that. What's yours is yours.
Glad to hear that.
I don't think he believes me.
We were just being chill talking about ants and cannibals and shit!
Yeah, well, that was then, Adam. You're just a fucking ray of sunshine today, huh?
Right back at you.
I thought it was funny. Yep. Hashtag cave life. Remember those?
Welcome back to the third chair with our very, very, very special guest, Rob Bowen.
Rob's gonna get you now.
Yeah,
Rob's
boy,
gonna come for
I'm
you.
gonna get in trouble. When we left off, we mentioned that we had two previous guests, Joe Black, who's an African-American rapper and musician and filmmaker also, as well as Ralph Giordano, which is Italian, I learned, and that you've done collaborative projects with both of them.
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about that, and you know, like how did you know them, and how do you decide like a collaboration? Like, do you guys sit around a table with a dark room and smoke and cigars and brandy, or what happens?
I don't know, but that sounds fun. I think we should try that. We're not doing that currently, but that sounds a lot better than me hiding in my room typing up a bunch of stuff and then sending it to people over Facebook. But so yeah, I've been really lucky, and the Colorado Springs film community is hugely lucky to have Ralph and a guy like Ralph, because Ralph's amazing, and he has done so much to bring the community together and to give us a platform and give us a place and give us audiences and so much. So I've collaborated with him through Peak Film Forum, just getting to showcase a lot of our work, but also like The Wastelander, which was previously a script called Fallout. When I first wrote it, was a film that I sent to him early on because I wanted him to maybe come on board as a producer. Unfortunately, that iteration of the project didn't work out, and 4 years later we finally got it, you know, back and, you know, revived and shot again, unfortunately without Ralph attached or on board because he was doing other things. But so I've worked with him on a couple of projects where I've asked, you know, for, you know, his advice and gotten him to like connect me with people to work with in very much the same vein that Peak Film Forum has helped with. And Joe is amazing. He's such a talented actor, and he's an amazing rapper. He's got, you know, as a writer, I'm a fan of lyrics, and if you can give me good lyrics and you can hook me that way, I'm on board. And Joe was always that, and he was always having that, you know, really potent, you know, flair where he was being honest and he was being open about what he was struggling with and what he was doing. And to me, that's what art's, you know, for. It's about expressing our pain and working through things and giving us those outlets. And so Joe was somebody I met through Ralph, and Nate Shields, who actually directed Joe my way and sent him to, you know, connect up with me as someone that we could probably work together well. And that, yeah, we have. We've collaborated on a number of things, films, music videos. I'm writing a series for him for his Black Joker character that he's doing. And so, yeah, we have collaborations where it's, you know, where we do kind of like sit down and discuss like what this means and like where the character comes from and what we want to see happen with this character in this universe. And then there's collaborations that come about because, again, I like to work with the same actors over and over again, and so it's like, well, I haven't seen Jay do this, or I haven't seen Joe do anything like this. So let me write them apart like that. In fact, Only Devils Die on Wednesday is a film that we just finished principal photography on a couple days ago.
So that's the trailer that just came out?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the trailers we just dropped. Working with Jay Giordano and Joe Black on that film, and Kendra Deshock for the first time. And so, like, that came about because I hadn't worked with Jay since Akla Tev. All the films that we made throughout 2020, we were working with the same people to keep everybody safe, and you know, people who were isolating already so they wouldn't have to really break out of that. So I didn't get to work with Jay much, and I was like, I want to work with Jay again. So I wrote this noir thriller and gave him, you know, I wrote it for him and I gave it to him. And I was like, tell me what you think about this part and this lead, and if you want to do this film, and go from there. So the collaborations happen in different ways, but a lot of times it's just once you've worked with someone, you're like, I want to work with them again. I want to see them do more. So.
Wow. So here's the follow-up question. You know, people may not know this. You've made what, 40 films of different lengths?
Yeah.
Mostly shorts, which technically, depending on the definition, 30 to 45 minutes each. Although I guess even a 7-minute film could be called a short. So you've written 40 scripts. You're on this ultra low budget. You've written it. You've gotten teams together. What is the secret formula? Because there's got to be a secret formula. I mean, because that's prolific production.
You know, there's a lot of ways that I am absolutely, you know, blessed. And as Joe would say, #blessed, you know, I am in so many ways. And having, early on when I was doing a job where I was freelancing as a, you know, website editor, and I was doing writing there. And I got really good pay, and that was like the first time in my life that had happened. And I was like, wow, what's having money like? And so, you know, we would use that to then, like, when we saw that opportunity coming to a close, it was like, well, what's the next chapter going to be? And so we would take those opportunities and those things and kind of roll them into something else. And I was, you know, I've been lucky to be able to get my own equipment and to have my camera, my lighting, my microphones, to be able to just say, I want to make a film this weekend. Let's go make it happen. So in that regard, I am so lucky, and that's probably one of the keys to it, is having your own equipment or having that access to someone like me who does, and who is just willing to just always want to be creating stuff and be doing stuff.
But there's a certain mindset, though, that you clearly have, and that you have and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there's a certain can-do, like we're gonna go do this.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. You know, we're gonna adopt, improvise,
right.
adapt, adapt. That's sort of a Canadian American pronunciation. Yeah.
I think
overcome was the other one.
Yeah. And I think the key to that is the passion behind it. I think that I'm a passionate storyteller. I love to tell stories, and I want to tell stories so much. And I think that pushes me to, again, always be writing something or always be wanting to work on something. I think that the depression helps because, again, when you're an artist and you're dealing with stuff and you're working through, you know, depression, imposter syndrome, different things like that, when you lose yourself, you can lose yourself in these projects, you know, and you can just kind of let go of all of that stuff, because in those moments and in those times, you're at home, you know what you're doing, you feel it, and it moves you to just create. And so you lose track of everything else. Nothing else matters. Nothing else makes sense other than creating. And I think that having that passion and giving into that and allowing that to guide you will help, and it will keep you going and keep you motivated, even in those times when depression tells you shouldn't be motivated or you don't want to do anything and you just want to stay in bed. You know, it's like, no, I've got other people now on board with it, on board with me on this. So I've got other people I can't let down. I think that helps too. You know, once you realize that this is a collaborative thing and you're part of a team, then it's not just about you. You've got other people involved and invested at this point, and you can't let them down. I mean, there's an aspect of knowing when to say no, knowing when it's time to say, this isn't coming together, it's not going to happen the way we want, and we need to cut our losses. And you know, I got to that point at a couple of times during this Only Devils Die, because I told the actors, I was like, 2 weeks, we're going to have this done in January. We just finished this film, you know, getting this shot.
January of what year?
Right, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, how long
so, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I felt like that at times. I was like, this isn't going to happen. We need to just give up at this point. But others had invested so much in it at that point that I was like, I can't do that to what they've given me. You know, I can't cut ties on that already because they've already done so much work and they've already given me so much time. Jay was investing money in the project at that point. You know, he was buying costume pieces that we were lacking and different things like that I didn't have the funding to do. And I was just going to compromise and go with what we had. And he was like, no, I think it would work better like this. And he's like, I'm going to put up the money for this. And it was like, wow, I mean, that's amazing to have people on your team like that and who are willing to do that. And again, once you get to that point, I think you have to realize that it's about more than just yourself. And I think that helps.
And Doug, did you have a quick question?
You mentioned earlier you had to separate and then you had to work with the same actors. What other challenges did you have from COVID?
So there were, you know, naturally one of the things that I was doing is I would have some jobs where I was getting some income coming in, and I was taking what little income I was getting and I was rolling it into props. I was buying the guns or the blood or whatever I needed to make this next film. And then when COVID hit, like all of that went away and we had no income, you know, suddenly, and we had no prospects and no possibilities. And I still wanted to create. I was still in this mode of we have to keep making stuff, especially then, because then there was so much weighing on me. I was like, I really got to deal with some stuff or process this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it became difficult. And like, how do we still tell these stories on even less of a budget, you know, we don't even have any disposable income for this. And we can't now feed the people. You know, that was one of the few things we could do for our actors. It was like, we can't pay you, but we can feed you while you're on set. And then we couldn't even do that because we weren't allowed to have food that, we could just have open that people could serve themselves. It all had to be prepackaged or pre-wrapped. And so there was just so many things and had it continued on, I mean, it just wouldn't have been fiscally, doable. Because we were having to buy extra cleaning products and sanitary stuff and things that considerations we weren't having to make before that now had to take priority and had to take, they had to be the first things that we spent money on if we were going to spend money on a project. Yeah. And so that meant other concessions had to be made elsewhere. So, yeah.
Thank you. And then we are going to play a game when we get back.
Yes, the first time ever is called Ask Coach Rob.
And we come back. Your name is Rob.
Right, yeah, otherwise it wouldn't work out. It was really
it's the other Rob.
There are many of us, probably.
Yeah, you are, yeah. And not to be confused with robbery.
Sometimes we're that too.
And you believe that changes the end result?
I don't know that I do yet. Just something of a hunch that's taken shape. Got some questions and need some answers.
That's understandable.
Some days can't be outrun.
Sundays are the worst. Castle's boys always come to worship at the altar of violence on Sundays. That's when they come for the coffers that have dried, those debts that demand the Broderick, payment and plasma. But I've no one to blame but myself. I placed those bets knowing the only line of credit I got in this town that's still good is drawn from the bank of blood. Not sure what Castle gets out of the whole exchange, but he keeps letting me play. So come the end of the week, I have a piper to pay. They say that devils don't recognize themselves as such until they meet an angel. But from the moment that they do, the stain of seeing themselves stays on their eyes forever. Never something they can shake. After a while of living like that, you can't help but feel like everyone sees that stain when they look at you, especially when you cross paths with another angel. Opening that envelope likely opens the door to a chapter I closed the book on long ago. Made what peace I could with that past and I moved on from it. Do I dare let it back in? Do I even have a choice at this point? No matter what we try to bury and hide from, the story is always out there, in pieces, in places. You just have to know where to look and what to look for.
We got a bill coming due, you and I. One that demands to be paid in full.
Welcome back to the third chair and our very, very, very special guest.
Only three this time, right? I guess because it's the third chair.
Getting a demotion.
Rob Bowen, filmmaker, actor, writer, poet, twisted sense of humor.
I get a very for each one of those. I just figured it out. Okay, that's what it is.
It's off your Twitter. I'm quoting your Twitter.
Yes, you are.
You know, when you don't, just a trick for people, when you don't know how to introduce somebody, just see what they call themselves on Twitter. Saves you a lot of time.
I like that. That's good advice. Write that down.
Yeah. Peter, if you have an essay in school, just copy it from a famous writer, right?
That's what I do. Yeah. Never been caught. Statute of limitations.
That's right. It's going to come up a lot in this episode.
All right. So, in this segment, we're introducing a new idea to the show, and we're experimenting on you.
Nice. I'm the guinea pig. Okay.
Yeah, you're the guinea pig. Yeah, what'll happen, this may make or break whether we get the 100 million followers. We're calling it Ask Coach Rob. We know there are artists that if they could talk to a creativity type coach about some of the issues they're facing, they would like an answer. And so I have some questions gathered from around the country.
Shoot.
Are you ready?
I am.
Ask Coach Rob.
I'm going to do it.
I understand that you've had to deal with some medical problems. You've mentioned chronic neck pain and depression. How do you remain a productive artist with those conditions?
Again, I think that goes back to the passion. Because when you're that involved and that dedicated to what you're doing, again, the brain just shuts off a lot of that other stuff. The pain, like I'll be moving around, I'll be so free and so mobile when I'm on set, and then I get home and it's like, I can barely move. What did I do? And you know, it's like I should have been feeling that all day, but when I'm on set, my brain just floods with endorphins and shuts all that other stuff out. And I think the depression works the same way. It helps kind of quiet some of those voices and some of that doubt.
Well, even amongst the people that train doctors, they're realizing that art-type therapy, like acting, is good for helping physicians who are experiencing burnout and things like that.
Oh, I can imagine.
So I'm not surprised with what you're saying. Ask Coach Rob. How do you identify meaningful projects? Sometimes don't you have to do less interesting projects to pay the bills?
Not if you don't pay those bills. So you do. There is that. There is that element of you're going to not always be getting to do the most fun stuff and always do stuff that you're that involved and engaged with or have that connection to. And I think the key is, as long as you're not working on or taking projects that kind of work against your beliefs and like your core and what you feel as an artist and as a person, then I think you're always going to be able to find an element to connect with in there and to have fun with. And if you're choosing projects based solely on like their meaning, yeah, you're going to probably work a little less, but it may be more rewarding to you and it may be more fulfilling. The work that you're putting out there is going to speak to you in a way that, you know, that you're prouder of than maybe some of the paying work that, you know, you did that doesn't maybe connect with you or resonate with you. But yeah, I think that the key there is to find a balance and to do those projects that you have to do to get the income, but then to leave yourself that room and that freedom to then work on projects that do mean something to you, because you're going to need that. And that's what's going to give you that recharge and keep you going when you feel like you're hitting those walls and you can't go on. It's because you're tied to a project that means something to you and that you have something to say with it, and that will always give you that push.
With respect to the comment about not paying your bills, the opinions of tonight's guests do not represent the opinions of 2 Men and a Duck Entertainment.
It's not necessarily the best way to live. I'm not going to recommend it. It's stressful.
Ask Coach Rob. How do you deal with creative blocks?
You know, I've been asked this question many years because I've written on this subject when I dealt with web design and graphic design. And the biggest thing that works for me is that shifting of gears. So give your brain a disconnect, like pull back from what you're working on and give it something completely unrelated to focus on and work on. And a lot of times you'll figure out those blocks while you're doing that other thing. It'll just hit you all out of nowhere. All of a sudden you're like, this is how I get from A to B, or this is how I resolve that issue with the story, or this is how I get that character to this point. You know, there's something that happens when you are so focused on a task that you begin to not be able to see it correctly. And so you have to step back and you have to give yourself that time and that distance to be able to come back to the project refreshed and recharged and ready to go. And again, I think a lot of times it happens automatically, or at least it does for me. I will come back to those blocks and those things that sent me in that other direction because I have those solutions now.
Do you like have a journal at your side of the bed and wake up? That's it. Scene 3.
That would be nice. Yeah, I actually have a computer, a laptop that I keep right next to the bed for that reason, just in case. Just in case, because you know, those ideas do hit you, and you can't go back to sleep sometimes until you get that out of your head. And, so yeah, it can be a problem too.
All right, next one. Ask Coach Rob. Sometimes I don't finish artwork because I fear others won't like it. Any advice?
Yeah, that's such an unfortunate mindset that so many of us run into, and artists across the board, a lot of times we feel like if someone doesn't respond to this, or if they don't, you know, like this, or if they don't share this, or they don't comment on this, I have failed. And I think that we so often, we get lost in what other people are going to think and what other people want to see from us, that we just lose track of what we're wanting to say and the story that we're trying to tell. So just be honest with you and be true to what you're wanting to say and tell, and you will find an audience. You will have people respond to it because there's truth in that. You know, instead of trying to mold your truth to fit what somebody else's idea of truth would be, just be true to you and others will respond. So don't worry about what other people think about your art. A lot of times it's so much of what you hear about your art doesn't even have anything to do with your art or you as a person. It has more to do with what they're in and dealing with at that time when they experienced your art. And it has nothing to do with you. So don't get too weighed down on that, because you can lose so much of your creative energy and spark if you get hung up there.
Boy, that's really good advice. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Ask Coach Rob. My elementary school teacher told me that I sucked at art. Her words haunt me to this day.
Ouch.
How would you deal with this?
First, fire that teacher who tells a student, no, you can't do that. But yeah, I would apologize to the person first off that you experienced that. But again, I would say, just like with what I just mentioned, so much of that has nothing to do with you as an artist or as a child. It has more to do with that person and their hang-ups or their problems or again, something going on with them. And it has nothing to do with you. Don't listen to that. That is not valuable for you, and that is not going to help you on your journey. Let go of that. That is not serving you well. That is not helping you. And again, one of the things that I had to do when I first started, you know, web design and graphic design, was learn the value of criticism and learn to be able to take critiques and find what's good in it and let go of everything else, especially anything negative that, you know, because people don't necessarily know the best way to critique or come at you with feedback on stuff. And so they just unload, and you then have to parse through that to find what can help you and what can't. And so I think this is part of that same advice. Know what in that was said to you has to do with you at all, and what doesn't, and let go of that. Let go of what doesn't serve you and has nothing to do with you as a person and an artist.
Very good. Well, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, Rob is going to answer the question, I'm afraid of looking weak and stupid and don't ask for help. What should I do? When we come right back.
Can I get it back? And is it all my fault? Have the roots dried black, been sewn in with the salt? I planted seeds along the way, and yet not one thing has grown. It seems the tears I shed each day salted the earth I have roamed.
Welcome back to the third chair with our guest, Rob Bowen, filmmaker, writer, actor, director, poet, and host of a special section, Ask Coach Rob. That's right, beautiful. So when we last left off, the question was this. And I really relate to this question because none of us knows everything. Coach Rob, I'm afraid of looking weak and stupid and don't ask for help. What should I do?
You should absolutely abandon that idea altogether and understand that you look worse when you don't ask for help, especially when you need it. And I think that that's something that we do hugely wrong in society, is we don't understand and recognize that asking for help, that's a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness, because it's knowing your limitations. It's knowing when you can't do something and when you are going to need that extra hand and that extra help. That's self-awareness. That's never a bad thing to have. You should always be able to ask experts, and we should want that more. You know, we don't value expertise enough. You know, we denigrate that, and we just we claim expertise on subjects that we have no real knowledge of. And we speak from those positions all the time. And I think that, you know, we should want to have like that knowledge from someone else passed on, because we should want to be able to learn from those places and from those sources. You know, I think that that's a huge disservice.
It seems to me that it can come a little bit from a place of ego. I mean, like, I've just gotten to know you, and I would have been really nervous calling you up out of the blue and asking for help. And now that I know you, it's like, why didn't I? Because I mean, you're a very giving, sharing kind of person.
Thank you.
But I guess there's an element of taking a chance a little bit. Someone might say, I don't have time for you maybe this weekend, but maybe I can help you down the road.
Oh, true. And, you know, as somebody who deals with depression, I mean, you hear that, and like your mind interprets it as they never want to work with you. They think you're the worst. You're an imposter. Just get out of here.
Yeah, boy.
But, you know, you got to, again, realize that the worst thing someone can say to you is no, that they can't help you. I mean, even if they, and again, if they like go off on you, like, how dare you ask someone such as myself for this, you know, again, let that go. That is not about you. That is all about them, and that is not going to serve you. And don't deal with that. And you don't need that kind of, you know, energy brought into your creative process. So let that go. And yeah.
Now that's, you know, I think that, you know, we should do a shout out and give kudos to the Peak Film Forum, because I think there's a number of people that have been very encouraging. Even our company, when we were starting out, even we met Joe Black, boy, a ways back, I think 2017 or 18.
Oh, wow. So before I did.
Yeah, and even then he was encouraging, yeah, maybe we could do a project together, and he didn't know that much about us. Although we did this real cool rap video.
So you were already speaking his language.
Yeah, that's right. I was speaking his language.
That's right. You were speaking to him from the heart there.
But it was good enough for Joe to notice.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the best, but
it was a young Russian rapper that was in town that we did that. We took our first shot at a music video.
Very cool.
And we're going to do more, I would assume, down the road.
Nice.
So we're going to wrap up with this final question, because I don't think we've asked this clearly.
Coach Rob, or
no, it can be
just a regular,
just a regular
question.
Yeah, you can slip out of your cape and your tights.
Right.
Maybe off camera.
We got to give the audience something, right?
Yeah. And that is, you have a business, and I just want to clarify that you're happy to talk to people about projects and whatnot. You're accepting clients, is that correct?
Yes, we completely are. I just started working with a new client who's a photographer who wanted some behind-the-scenes footage of him doing photo shoots and stuff so he can market
making
himself.
of?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
cool.
So I was doing some of that recently, and I'm always open to working with folks and collaborating with anyone who's got questions. Or, you know, I've had people reach out to me and ask me questions via email. Like, they've got, you know, one guy whose son was in film school or just about to start film school, wanted to ask me some questions because he knew I was in the program at UCCS, and that's where his son was going. And yeah, I always try to get back to people. I think sometimes I'm not always the most responsive and like good at like getting right back to people, but I try to always like give people some time and make that space so that I can make myself accessible and open.
All right, and we'll put on the screen ways to contact you.
Please do, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here and sharing. We've thoroughly enjoyed having you here on the show.
I can't thank you enough. It's been such a great experience, and I'm always, I'm always leery of coming on and talking about myself. I don't think I do it that well. But you guys made this so easy and such a pleasure. So thank you both.
Well, we just want you to know the next time we bring you back, Doug and I will talk about ourselves a whole lot.
Oh, there you go. All right, that'll make me feel better. Then I won't feel so. It's all about balance.
Yeah, just smile, say yes, Peter.
I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll find out that.
Peter, why do you always get beaten up by women in kickboxing?
I don't know. I got to work on that. Well, thank you very much. And from all of us here at 2 Minute and Duck Entertainment and the Third Chair, thanks for watching. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and what's the other one? Like, subscribe, share, hit notification bell.
All 100 million of you.
That's right. Thank you and good night.
This has been the Third Chair. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.